All right, hello everybody. Welcome into week 2, season 7 of the tier 2. Uh, my name is Throne Pillow. I'm here with Alex. Say hi, Alex.
Howdy, howdy.
We also have Space here on production, so thank you very much to him. Moving on to the teams, we've got Orbit Outlaws. Currently, both teams are 0-1 for today, but that means we got a good match that we're looking at here. And then the other team for today is going to be Desciples Gaming. Yeah, anything that sticks out to you on these teams, Alex?
Well, I'm looking at their starting lineup. Of course, you got for the Orbit Outlaws, you got Pickle, Sheep, Puppy, Janie, and Cody. I'm seeing a Reinhardt for Sheep's favorite tank here. And if you joined us for last match, you understand over here in Annihilation Nation, we do enjoy some good Reinhardt play.
Oh, 100%. It's always fun to watch. One thing for me personally on this team is seeing that Widowmaker. We got a lot of long-range escort maps. Kind of curious to see if we're going to see something along those lines.
Yeah, we very much could, but we do have the starting map, so we know it's Samoa. We don't have the bans just quite yet. I don't think you're going to be running the Widow here, but, that Reinhardt brawl still very much on the table.
100%. And then on the side of Desciples Gaming, we got quite a few interesting things. For me, notably, the Alari from Poggers could be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Alari has been a super strong character as of recently, even though they did get the projectile nerf. If you're clicking heads and, quite frankly, have some great pylon placement, could be a deadly support. But also talking about it, an interesting support doer in a Moira, that can be a tricky support composition they are holding.
Right, 100%. More really, really looking for that rush a lot more. Typically want to play that with a team with some speed, so like a Junker Queen or maybe with a Lucio. So it's interesting to see how they're going to play around that if they do decide to run it.
Yeah, but on that topic, they do have Cheezers, who is a Tracer player, and Zoma, who says they enjoy the on-run. So we talk about the 3-2 split here every once in a while. You could see a 3-2 split with Tracer, on-run, Moira, while it looks like the Domina player of Spooky Tyler and Poggers try to hold down some angles.
Yeah, 100%. I can see that. Again, not necessarily guaranteed that they'll be playing these heroes whatsoever, but definitely interesting to think about it.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Just by telling you each player's favorite character, you can kind of theory craft on where everyone wants to go.
right. Uh, yeah. First match will be started in just a bit, and we will be back then. All right, we are back. We've got the bands in. Initial band coming in from orbit is the Sierra, with a follow up of Ram. So interesting picks here. I think we've probably seen that rhyme like we talked about if they're getting the Ram band right here.
Yeah, absolutely, probably. But, however, it's interesting to see the Sierra band. I don't think I've seen Sierra on this channel, or quite frankly, in a lot of places, even in games. So maybe a DPS band just to protect something.
That could be it possibly. I do know that there's some players who are a bit more avid on Sierra, just on a frustration level rather than a tactical one. So it could be something like that as well.
Yeah, very much well could be, but we're heading into Samoa, and it doesn't look like I don't see a Rhine composition here.
I don't either, but we do see Malga on both sides. Notably, we see the Lucio versus the Moira, like we talked about, Moira not quite having that speed, but could just sit down main while we get a 2-3 split with the Onron and the Kiri.
2-1.
I'm inclined to like this Lucio just because speed is the name of the game in Overwatch 2. However, we can't give it up for Moira and her just raw healing output.
100% match getting started here.
Yeah, match gets started, and if you like Mauga shooting at each other, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's exactly what we're going to be seeing for the next 10 minutes. As we see the Mauga start to engage. Stop, good, gets Puppey, the Cassidy. And it looks like they're going to try to regroup on this, trying not to lose any more players here. Point is unlocked, no one wants to touch it.
Right.
Still no one on it.
Quick fight win from Desciples, getting a very early pick on that cast.
Absolutely, and we do see an Ashe come out for Puppey. Was originally on that cast and was originally going to get burnt down. Mauga Stomp comes in, but the other one is better for Sheepish here. And that's going to give the in here for Orbit. However, Zoom taking out Pickle here on that on-run. Puppey killing the Moira on the opposite side here, and it looks like Orbit is going to take control of point as Zoom gets a last-minute touch. Puppey with a 3K, though.
That's a 4K. That's a very nice cleanup from Puppey there. And we see, looking at the ult here, nobody quite has anything. It's been two very quick fights. And we see the difference in my eyes. Yeah, Honor ult coming up a lot faster than the initial ult.
Yeah, absolutely, but a beautiful stomp, and now they're shooting each other. A counter stomp to initiate this fight. Both teams to stabilize, but Juicy Pickle in a dangerous pickle. Taylor gets it. So right now, Orbit down one player down there, Reaper. However, the cages have been built up. It looks like it's disengaged coming in from Taylor here, or Tyler. A counter stomp coming in for Orbit. Finds the Moira here on the opposite side. However, with that burn damage, the Onron can just keep fanning the flames, increasing that damage. And with an Emery, of course, just raw damage output right now in favoring Desciples as they get the point flip.
Right, very nice job. A little sheepish, maybe just staying in a bit too long there, not valuing his health as much as he should.
That should do it.
You're absolutely right about this. But let's look at these ult banks. If this fight goes any longer for Desciples, they would have thrown it away. They have all 5 ultimates right now, while Orbit is still building up to that Reaper Bob. Talking about which, here comes the cage. Puppey finding cheers already, so the living weapon will not get it. The consuming rush out on the side of Orbital. Moira finding the Lucio, so no beat here. This is just going to be raw damage output. Cage cancels the on-run ult here, with the Moira coming back, popping the Coalesce to try to keep the team fully up, and it looks like Orbital Outlaws are going to take this point at 51% to Desciples 68%.
We saw that fight, although they won it, it was a bit expensive having to use 3 ults there.
Yeah, absolutely 3 ults, and we start to engage with another one. A beautiful bob into the Kasune Rush to prevent people from using it too often. Puppey finds one, but is traded by the same one they took the Graves to each other. A beat coming out, good for 3, however, does not get the Reaper. However, no progress, forward progress is made with the beat. That was just for sustain. Here comes Tyler here, trying to burn down this other Mauga. The stomp is good. Gonna keep the fight going for a little while longer. Counter stop by Taylor. Finds 2 here. Here comes the living weapon for Desciple, trying to end this team fight before the point to get any progress further. Disciples do get it. Orbital sitting at 94%.
Right, they got that Kitsune Rush ready as well. That cage could be a possible answer, but you also have the Reaper ult coming up. You gotta use it soon to get it ready.
Yeah, here's a cage. The Reaper ult could go crazy in here. However, with the loss of the Kiriko, it's gonna still doom. Sheepish tries to get the point touch. Maybe a too aggressive here. Does die for that right now. Disciples looking in control of it. 97. We gotta talk about who's touching next. It's gonna be the Lucio for the last touch. Does not get it. Desciples are going to take this first point on Samoa.
Right, very close first point there. I think it really came down to there was just a few times a little sheepish, maybe playing a little too aggressively, not getting that HP management quite right. Lucio Kiri not quite having the same amount of healing potential as Kiri Moira.
They don't have that, but they do have the utility, and I just don't feel like they use the utility great. And of course, that last fight, that was crucial for Juicy Pickle to get into the Kasune rush and use that Reaper ult, but could have, would have, should have, they didn't. We have a P coming up, so a pause in the chat real quick.
Capture the objective.
Again, we see an interesting swap here from It's Cody, from Lucio to Ana, really looking to probably just get Anti onto that Maga, run in, and just break through that sustain. Right? Not much you can do about that.
Yeah, absolutely. However, we do have a pause here in the action. Looks like a player is on ping, so we're going to get that settled all in.
All right, sorry about that. We are back. Like we were talking about, that Ana pick, main thing you're going to have to look for is that Suzu, and then you're able to just engage hard into that Maga, get the anti off, really just burn him down. So you're going to have to be careful about that if you are Disciples.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. However, that's where the Curies have to be on point. You know, they have to hold that Suzu for that anti-nade, or if there is a threat. But talking about which Puppy is a threat right now, canceling the on-run of Zumo here, that's going to put Outlaws up one player in this team fight. However, the pressure is real on the Sheepus as Puppy is found out on the right angle. Talking about which Spooky Taylor finds Pickle, and so that's going to put Outlaws on the back foot, only with the two supports and a tank here as point flips in favor of Disciples.
Right, very nice start. You see some trades coming back and forth. We see the anti out onto the on-ron, but not quite finding it.
Yeah, that's a tragic stagger from Sheepish, you know. Going into that right room, hoping their team would probably rotate into it. Or maybe just kind of getting caught out there. So they have to waste even more time waiting for their tank. And by the time, Cheers has found Pickle once again. So if you're Outlaws right now, you really need to regroup and reorient. Their health pools are looking quite dire. Sheepus does find Spook. Taylor does find Poggers here. So what turned out to be a scary fight for Outlaws has turned in their favor. They just need to cap this point right now. And they do exactly that on City Center, you know. Outlaws right now building up. Disciples, 52% and counting.
Right, 100%. And we're looking at these ults. You really want to get something done quick before we get that Reaper ult up. If you're Disciples, you really want to try and push in here, but that Ana making it awkward. We see the anti come out, forcing Suzu.
Yeah, the anti comes out, and you see Tyler right there, kind of scared of that. Was going to try to rush out, didn't have the stomp on it. Here comes a high nuke from Puppy. The living weapon is going to be shut down. Call it a dead weapon instead. as Taylor gets Cody in the back line. Zumo finding the other support duo of the Outlaws here. That's going to force them back and put Desciples back in control at this point.
Right, we saw they were at 98% to Reaper ult when they fell over, unfortunately. Maybe just getting a little too eager to try and build.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna see this next team fight, and you know, you have this Nano, you have the Reaper ult. You don't even need the Nano for the Reaper ult. Reaper just by himself can pump out some amount of damage. But here comes the cage, here comes the Reaper ult and the Kitsune Rush. They do not burn him down just quite yet. However, Puppy taking Zumo down off the ankle. Pickle eventually finding Spooky Taylor, and Poggers found by Puppy again with 3 silver bullet kills in this fight. Will they get a 4th here? It will not, as Sheepus takes him to the curve.
Right, they did win that fight, but again, using 2 ults to 1 there, and those are 2 big ults for this comp. Having the Blossom and the Rush to really burn is going to be something this comp really wants. So not having it for this on-run ult or this following Rush that we see come out right now.
Yeah, the Rush is good. The on-run going deep, gonna pop the blade. Gets it good for 3. Everyone's super low. Puppy tries to pop a high noon to kill the on-run, does not get it. The Coalescence is out for Desciples, and it looks like they have shoved Outlaws back. There's 90% on the board, so the question is, who's gonna be the touch for it?
Alright, we see the closest player could be Puppy. But they're just not going to be able to get there, and that's going to be map 1 going to Desciples.
Yeah, map 1 going to Desciples, and in a 2-0 fashion, these 2 teams are quite close, don't get me wrong.
Right, both maps competitive. Definitely a bit of back and forth here. Maybe just need to look for our health a little more and play around what ults we have. But definitely a strong start from both teams.
Epic.
All right, welcome back. We see Kings Row picked here from Orbit. Uh, Definitely a solid map. Lots of different things you can go here. Uh, and we see them also choosing to ban the Mei, uh, which is an interesting decision. I believe they'd want to go with the Ryan comp here.
Yeah, if you want to go with the Rhine comp, banning the May isn't the worst idea. Mr. Hold Rectangle Man really does get kind of roughed up if a May throws an ice wall behind him, cuts off that healing. But let's see what these two teams are going to run. Of course, we all love some scrims around here.
Right. Worth noting as well the Sigma ban from Disciples, which is an interesting decision. I'm not too sure what Orbit are planning to play, but I don't think it had Sigma.
And it's a Malga.
Right, we see that same comp. But actually, I'm just wrong. We see Malga with the Onron yet again, but we see Juno Ilari backline with a Sojourn as well.
I don't mind the Sojourn. I think it is kind of interesting that Ilari backline with the Juno. There's nothing wrong with running the Juno with the Reinhardt. Of course, Reinhardt drastically better with some speed. But is the Ilari the choice? And we do have a P coming out from one of the players.
Yeah, but looking over at the side of Orbit, we've got that Rhine comp that we were talking about, with the Symmetra and Ashe as well. So definitely gonna be running it down. But we also interestingly see a pretty divey backline with the Brig Ana.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. That Brig Ana, I think, is the only outlier in this composition, which I'm kind of scratching my head. Even if you're expecting a dive composition, you would just want to go full brawl. Because, let's be honest, Reinhardt's a character made for Overwatch 1, made for when Lucio couldn't wall ride. And so he needs to be enabled by every facet. And quite frankly, this Brig Ana really doesn't do anything for him.
Right, 100%. The Brig gonna be useful in protecting the Ana if there is dive, but other than that, there's just not gonna be much that we can do here. The Brig kind of gonna be stuck in a no man's land if it comes to a brawl mirror.
Yeah, absolutely. We are having some technical problems on the player side, so we will be right back. But before we jump to a small, never mind, we got an R. Love transitions, guys. Love.
Four, three, two, one. Attackers
Right, we see them getting set up on this high ground here. Angel's just sitting up here, not quite
Why
sure.
dive Reinhardt? That could be a thing.
Right.
That-
Using
Alright,
that TP a little early, we're kind of stuck here now.
Yeah, Reinhardt definitely can make great use of the Sim TP. However, kind of out of the fight right now. You do see the Onron going up there because of the mobility, but the Malga kind of just able to run through it. Cheezers does find Puppy on the hit scan duel here.
Right, they're kind of just having to box themselves up here because they don't really have any angles. See the Ryan and the Sim trying to pick something here, trying to get something done, but I think it might just be a little too late.
Yeah, once your backline's fall, you lost those angles. Reinhardt is, like I said, not able to do a whole lot about those angles. It's really up to your team, and once you lose it, And that's where Disciples can make great use of their hit scan, their presence on those angles.
Right, 100%. And like we were talking about, it's very hard for them to keep those angles. You really have to rely on your team. And we were a little too stacked, unfortunately, to get that done. Another reason why this on a bridge might be a bit of an issue.
Yeah, especially in this Malga. I mean, like, we have seen Brig into this Mauga composition, but like, it's really susceptible to be ran over, especially since Honest Sleep does not affect Mauga in the midst of the charge. And quite frankly, I don't see Tyler gonna go for those charges. He's gonna burn down that shield, and you can slowly just whittle away to Reinhardt. And that's actually just what we're seeing right now. You know, Outlaws has given up basically half a second point without really much of a fight.
Right, 100%. Just not able to move in, not able to find those angles. Puppy initially taking one, but getting caught out by the Onron.
Yeah, I don't know how Tyler got launched into space there via sleep, but it did happen. And, you know, the back line for Outlaws is dead, so you gotta start talking to yourself. You lost point 1, game 5 minutes, and you're about to lose point 2 with sub 30, and we do start seeing some swaps as Angel goes over to the Orisa.
Right, I like this pick a lot more personal sustain, able to deal with Mauga a lot better, and already received the spear.
Yeah, we actually see an on-run duel that goes in the favor of Zumo right now. Pickle going down here. But here comes the stomp. Good start cut in it. Here comes the rally. Gonna sustain. Here comes the stun. Do hits one. Trying to find that block. Doesn't get it. A lot of damage coming in for Poggers. However, Puffy is gonna put their mark on this point. Throws a bob out front. 2 heads. Pickle finding the other 2 here. And that's actually going to be Outlaw's first fight win. But is it a little too late as there's 4 minutes and 40 on the clock?
I mean, anything's possible here. They definitely still can win. Having that nano could really help with this cage, but having that Ray as well means it's going to be a very hard fight.
Yeah, absolutely. That cage Ray, you know, you just need to catch one. And maybe that's the horse, you know. It's not like Onron can really go into that cage. Here comes the stomp. Does not pop the cage. No, I lied. Pops the cage. Onron in the back line, however, finds 2. Finds the support line. So it is just Mauga by himself, dying to Puppy and the concentrated fire of Outlaws. So Pickle coming up huge there, cutting off the head of Disciple.
Yeah, really clean play there, and that, again, makes it so you can kite this Ray. That's a really important fact, because if you're in that cage, there's just nothing to do, and there's so much damage to deal with that you're not going to break through it. So really helpful for their there. But nice pick from Puppy.
Yeah, Puppy coming up big with these picks. But talking about coming up big, you know, Outlaws do have ultimates on the board. They can hold this quite confidently and quite healthily for a long time.
Right, 100%.
Yeah, here comes the stomp in for Taylor. Brig trying to get that, but dies. The orbital good, Shear's finding it. And with the rest of that concentrated fire, no matter how gold that Orisa goes, it can get burnt through, and that's exactly what we're seeing with the rest of the Disciples burning through Outlaws.
100%. We see a quick on-run engage onto Angel, and that's a very quick pick. That's not what you want to see here, as that's one of your only upcoming ults, and we see all of them fall. Puppy's the only one left, and he's not able to get out.
Yeah, we have Bob Lim a bit away from the point, and that's going to be all she wrote for the attack of Disciples with 2 minutes 35 on the board. However, I will give it to Outlaws there. That 3rd-point defense looking a lot better. And in defense of Angel, I get the idea. You want to get into that small room. You have Terror Surge. Play a bit more defensively until your team comes back, because you did have alt banks coming up.
Right, 100%. Really clean job there from Disciples, taking that fight super quick. If that fight lasts longer than about 4 seconds, then you're now at the ultimate disadvantage, and you probably lose that fight. So really good at keeping that time bank there. Now a lot more difficult for Orbit, because that's a very quick cap.
Absolutely, and you know, we weren't a fan of the Reinhardt on defense for the side of Orbital Outlaws. However, as everyone knows, King Fro, attacker favored. Lamau.
100%.
But I do like the composition swaps for this Reinhardt on attack for Orbital Outlands. You have the Lucio Curie, you know, basic Overwatch 2 lineup, but it's that reason because they're just so strong together.
100%. And we see, again, with that sim, likely going to be able to take this high ground pretty quickly, especially if the Ram's on low ground here. Just not going to be able to contest until it's far too late.
Yeah, and on the opposite side, you see a comp that, you know, could give this Reinhardt a few headaches. You have the Genji, you have the Ana, and the Illari. So angles are on the side of Disciple Gaming right now. However, if executed well, Outlaws can rotate quite effectively. You see the nade going wide. That's one cooldown they don't have to deal with. Ram already used his form, so if they wanted, they could very much turn around. However, Angel stepping their head out too far as Cheezers does take it. And here comes Engage. However, Zoom getting taken out by the Curie of Disciple Gaming. Puppy also coming big out here, finding another pick. So a fight that could look lost. You know, health bars are on the side of Disciple Gaming as the Kiriko picks up another kill here.
What a clean recovery there from Puppy and its Cody. That fight looked lost, and they still managed to come out on top just by getting those picks, isolating those fights.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. As we see two players who really, I think the idea was their team wanted to continue fighting to this point. And you see Tyler stepping forward, so that was in the group plan. But with the scouting of that Sim Ash trying to take that high ground, shut that down before it can really get any momentum. And you see the payload is now on its way for Outlaws.
Right. Also a good cap. That's a good start to this push if you want to get on this level that Disciples had on their offense.
Yeah, and you see this 2-2. The Kiriko Ashe versus the Illari Genji right now. However, the Ashe Kiriko has won that battle and now get an angle down alleyway to shoot as free as they can be. It's going to be hard for Zumo to really get anything going. All they can do is really pressure it out, but with Puppy being an assassin, finds another headshot here. However, the Annihilation on point is going to be a juicy nade coming out from Dezo here, finding two people, and that's really going to keep the defense alive over here for Disciple.
Yeah, very solid job there from Spunky Tyler. And now, looking at the ult bank, we've got that blade upcoming, we've got the overclock. We are at the ult disadvantage, but not for long if we want to try and just keep this fight slow.
Yeah, Angel maybe dropping down a little too soon, maybe miscommunicating that with his teammate. However, Tyler also going out of LOS of their support. You saw the Ana wanted to come. Here comes an OC popped by a wall to make sure that doesn't get too much value. It's up to the Cheezers to find the value of this OC. However, this wall making it extremely difficult. Puppy again coming up with a kill feed. However, that was two people. Here comes a Blade. They're trying to salvage this fight. Nano coming out. Pete answering the call. Blade right now has found one. Angel swinging away, trying to find it. The Lucio is the only one who died to that Nano Blade, and Orbital Outlaws are still making progress. It's going to be a 4v5 fight in the alleyway, so looks like Outlaws are going to try to take this as slow as possible. Scratch that. Puppy found out. Here comes the wraparound pin going nowhere. Kiriko's dead. However, Pickle does trade out Funky Tyler here. Pickle coming alive again with Cheezers. However, Angel needs some help here. Is going to start backing up.
Yeah. Again, that fight a little costly, having to use both DPS ults and that nano. And now we are once again at that disadvantage. Wall already have built for Pickle.
Yeah, absolutely. You see this high ground battle coming up again. It is the Curie Ana versus the Illari Genji. However, Shatter is locked and loaded. You see how Reinhardt's play differently when they have Shatter. That's what we're seeing right now. TP good. He spots it. Here comes the Sun for Poggers. Pickle already finding Zumo here. Sun going out. Hits the Kiriko, and the Kiriko, he gets hit in the head by a beautiful shot. Funky Tyler finds Pickle. Puppy, however, finds Poggers in the end. Here comes the Annihilation. They really wanted to end this. However, Puppy coming alive, finding the back line of the Orbital Outlaws here. This Annihilation going up for quite some time because the Reinhardt is just a damage sponge as the Lucio gets cleaned up. Orbital Outlaws not making too many progress in the last two fights.
Right, I think they're just being a little passive here, right? They've been sitting on this fob, they've been sitting on this lane. They really need to start using these, getting these aggressive fights. Especially here, we want to try and get something with as little as possible.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There is no ult on the side of Desciples Gaming. So if you're Orbital, you have to recognize these ult banks that you have. You have basically all 5. Make it as cheap as possible so you can snowball it 2 seconds. Here comes Puppy's Bob, like you've been asking for a little while. It is Slept, Cheers, finds Cody. That is a large sense of healing out. However, it looks like Desciples' health bar are so much lower. Here comes a wall. So Outlaws still want to press the tempo here. The Sojourn and Ilari press to one side. At the other side, Ramatra Ana. Pickle gonna clean up the Sojourn. However, is immediately traded out for Poggers. On the opposite side, you see the Ram fighting the Ryan here. Puppy finding the Ana. So right now, still very scrappy affair. However, Outlaws have a far way to go, and we have a P coming in from chat.
Yeah, these fights are getting scrappy. Again, we saw a lot of the possibly just waiting too long and these ultimates really dragging out these fights. Uh Maybe getting a little aggressive with it would have been better. Cody's still sitting on that rush.
Yeah, Cody unfortunately got picked, I think, at the very beginning of that fight. And, I was afraid for Orbital Outlaws. I thought that was going to be the end of that fight. Kiriko is such a crucial tool of your healing, but they end up staying alive. And with some great plays by their DPS players, they do find it in. And they just, we see in the kill feed right now, Puppy got the tank player for Desciples. There's 32 seconds left, and we've seen miracles happen before, but right now, looks like Orbital Outlaws might just push it in.
Right, 100%. We're pretty close to that check. With this ult advantage, we should be able to get through it, but we need to take it quick. Otherwise, we're getting that blade again, we're getting that nano, and we're getting that overclock. You can stop one of them, but I don't quite think you can stop both the overclock and the nano blade if that's what they go with. All right, we are back. Sorry about that. We had a disconnection from Tyler. So losing that ult charge, unfortunately. I don't think it's too much that they lost. Thankfully, maybe like 20%.
No, but the question is, I don't think they'll engage or no, I was live. He immediately went for it. Disciple pressing ahead into the cart, trying to get any stall here. The ramp is coming back, so this would be a great time to shatter, but the payload already goes in. So it looks like Tyler is going to get burnt out kind of quickly here. Overextend. The beautiful nade coming in from the on side of Desciples, however, still too late on that front. And is that the shield perk for Symmetra?
That is the shield perk.
I don't think I have ever seen that.
An interesting pick for sure. See the TP out to high ground, instantly canceled by the cart.
Ooh, Puppy finding cheers though. Here comes the blade on the opposite side, tries to find a kill, finds Cheesy Pickle. The beat a bit late, good for a 3, does not get Puppy here. After consuming rush, Cody is good. It's just swinging. Angel finally throws a shatter, it's big. It's a 3-man shatter. However, no follow-up. Puppy does eventually get it. However, Julie and Cheezers, as well as Poggers, wipe out the rest of Outlaws.
Yeah, that shatter was good, but there was just not any follow-up. The team already hurting a little too much to be able to peek that.
Yeah, Shatter good for 3, but maybe held it a little too long during that fight. Should have used it a bit earlier. Now we're going to be looking at Puppy with the only ult on the side of Outlaws here, while Disciple has an ult bank that is loaded and ready to go. There's 30 seconds left on this map. Let's see how this fight comes.
We see Puppy setting up on that far side, and we see the Bob come out.
Yeah, Bob comes out. The Genji and the Symmetra trade each other out. However, Tyler is also found by the Bob, so Puppy, scratch that. Bob comes alive for their team. That's what you have for 6-man Overwatch. Shout out all you old heads. But 2 ults remaining on the side of Disciples, and this game is not over yet. Pickle does have this wall. Here comes the OC by Cheezers. Tyler needs to hold his arm. Puppy finding not 1, but 2. Here comes the Sun to try to save the game. Angel swinging. Needs some help. Needs anything. Gets the Suzu. Good. You see 2 supports and a DPS just trying to circle this wagon, try to kill him. Does not get it. Pickle gonna find the kills here. Anna, it's just the last one here. Zumo's gonna be the next one to touch here. And now the tank is back on the side of Disciples. However, a little too late. We're going in overtime.
Right, but as we can see, there's definitely a time discrepancy here. We're just playing for a tie now if we're Orbit.
Yeah, absolutely. Who loves Thai Overwatch? Raise your hands. That's right, no one raised their hands.
I was about to say, my hand is firmly out.
No one loves Thai Overwatch. But still interesting, 3-3, they pushed it to the end. Sure, that's doornail, but they still do it,
100%. Now, if we're seeing the comps here, seeing the Widowmaker and Sombra from the side of Disciples,
I
very
think if you... No, go ahead.
honestly, I agree with the Widow pick here, because if you get one fight win, you win this map.
Yeah, absolutely. All eyes on Zumo right now. And, I think that goes to the same with Cheezers on that Sombra. If you find any opening or just burn anybody wrong, it could be all game.
Right, and that EMP, usually good for a fight win on its own. So definitely going to be dangerous to play into.
Absolutely. Here comes the first shot. Will they find Puppy? Puppy sees that, decides, hey, I'm not going to peek that. That is a risk I am not taking. And you see the Malga already stepping forward here. Oh, we're staying on the Widowmaker. Zumo is a threat. They have to be aware of that sight line here. Cheezers, however, found out a beautiful kill and a beautiful spy check on the side of the Brigitte. However, Tyler running head deep into that backline finds 1, and that might just be all they need. The spawns are quite away. Poggers finding another one. Losing 1 was bad. Losing 2 might be catastrophic over here for Orbital.
Right, 100%. They do have to get these respawns on the side of Disciples, but their spawn is much closer, and they're on a much faster composition.
Yeah, Puppy finding Poggers, though, so they're going to be without another Illari for just a little bit. Also quickly building up here. Looking in favor of Puppy right now, as Puppy finds another kill. Absolutely electric onto Cheezers.
Right now.
However, this Widow just existing is a scary idea, you know. Very dangerous. One pick and it's over. Tyler finds Pickle. However, we know Pickle was traded out last fight too.
Right, Tyler running it down again, looking for that brig.
Oh my god, though, Angel goes down. That might just be game. Losing your tank is tragic, and when you need this point defense, and that's exactly how it looks.
And that's going to be a win for Disciples yet again, coming up 2-0 so far in the series. Orbit really on the back foot here.
Play of the game.
You know, the biggest problem that they seem to be having is, although Pickle's Puppy is coming up really big, we're just not quite sustaining through the counter push. Maybe just going a bit too aggressive. But regardless, we will be back shortly with the third map in the series. Disciples up 2-0 right now. welcome back to map 3, going to Runasapi, by the side of Orbit. Uh, Good old push, gotta love it, with the Ana ban, no less. Uh, really trying to shut that out from Days Out, I believe it is.
Mhm.
And the follow-up ban from Disciples on Ash, really trying to get Puppy onto somebody else. That Ash putting in so much work.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Puppy was actually has been a menace through that too. We saw them on the cast originally. They got ran down. Switch to the Ash, total different look. They took heads to last through series. However, they have not come up with a map win. They're looking to reset that here, get back on the right track, and get this going.
Right, 100%. And we can see the comps coming out here. It looks like we've got the Cat Bastion coming out from the side of Orbit.
Tell me it's not true that I gotta watch a cat bastion fly around the sky.
I don't know what to tell you. It's true.
I heard we were supposed to nerf Cat Bastion by a certain someone in the producer seat.
Objective
But we do
under
have the Cat
attack.
Bastion either way, so let's see how they set this up.
Right. And looking at the other comp, we actually have some decent answers with the Freya, with the Venture, able to live pretty well. A lot of survivability from that engage. So it's all going to be about trying to get those cooldowns out prior.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. But also, they have tools to disengage. The only one who really doesn't is Zarya, so they do have to play their shield count and life. You see the Bastion engage in form. As soon as that Bastion is out of form, however, very vulnerable. And you see that Freya pumping in the damage as Tyler, who used to be on tank, is now a DPS character, takes out Juicy Pickle, and Puppy following suit as the cat tails and runs.
Right. Maybe just staying in a little bit too long there, Cody and Puppy. But Puppy falling very low and just not having that per, not able to sustain. And that's
Yeah,
a
you're
fight win for Disciples.
Fight win, but you see this sneaky angle. They're going back. They're going around it. They're looking for that pinch, probably with the Mauga engage. However, Sheepish is just getting ran through right now, as all the attention was onto that character, as this Bastion Cat just kind of played in Neverland. However, they do find the one onto the Freya. However, without form now, very dangerous. Moira trying their best to be an anti-air character, however, is not. And that's kind of the problem with this comp. If you lose the Freya, who's gonna shoot down this cat?
Right, they're kind of invincible up there, not really able to deal with it whatsoever.
Yep, talking about not dealing with it though.
Just getting that progress.
Yeah, they're still getting the progress, and Sheepish, waiting for that engage, it normally is losing a lot of health and using a lot of resources. However, that's not the case for this one. They find the burn onto the Zarya, and Puppy, of course, like all they've been doing this entire map, lighting up that kill feed.
Right, opening yet another fight with another 2K. And Disciples gonna have to push back.
Yeah, they're gonna have to push back, but they also don't have it. Here comes the excavation. Tries to find Pickle, does not get it. Tries to find anyone with it. Finds the Kiriko. Zumo fighting the Reaper on Juicy Pickle here. So a very cheap fight for Disciple Gaming, only using one ult there.
Right, and we're looking at these ult tanks, and we have a big lead on the side of Disciples, and also a big lead in car progress. Because who are we gonna put on there? If you're Orbit.
It's gonna have to be the Venture. It's gonna be somebody, but talking about what Sheepish finds the burn on Cheers. The Bolo good, doesn't have damage on the Kiriko. Quickly found out. Puppy popping not one, but 3 juicy targets here. However, Poggers says they're not going down without a fight. Kills Pickle in the end of that.
Right, Potter's kind of stuck behind the enemy Manga.
Yeah, Poggers, you can see him still behind, does a lot of damage to Puppies, and now has the ability to get out. But Cheers finds Sheepish with the help of the rest of the team. They went too far forward. They did not have the sustain of that support comp. But let's talk about these Kirikos. They're just coming alive in this kill feed as Tyler goes down to the other Kiriko on side of Outlaws.
Right, 100%. We're seeing a lot of activity from them. Although we're still not seeing too many openings come out. Both teams really keeping this opening tight, but we see the lane from Jenkins.
Yeah, you spoke too soon. It's two ults have been used, the Coalescence and the Kitsune Rush pop. One for each side of the team. That might just be it, as Pickle and Puppy with the Cat Bastion has found that pinch once again. They've been setting up that for basically every fight here. Tyler finally finds the revenge on the opposite side, Kiriko, so they're going to get that point progression. But like you've been saying, it has to be Pickle or like someone to hold this bot, because that was a lot of time wasted where no push progress was given.
Right, and now they had the forward spawn that whole time, so they get to take this fight much quicker.
Yeah, absolutely, and you already see Sheepish losing all the armor and half his health. They need to get out. Pickle goes down already. Bot control is just not something Outlaws believe in, I guess. But here comes... I was hoping for the Cat Bastion to come swing around, but with picking up a health pack here, Sheepish goes down. Still lacking that HP, and that forward spawn progress is back in control for Desciples here.
Right. Cody and Puppy kind of just being a non-factor in that fight, not really engaging until it was way too late. Their tank was already down, and then they would just have to leave.
Yeah, they'd have to leave. But talking of which, Puppy finds Zumo in the backline. They have that actually stocked Lindholm explosive perk. Finds a lot of damage and is coming through for their team.
That's a 3K for Puppy.
Yeah, Tyler did throw that excavation out, however, did not find it the necessary kills here for it. However, Sheepish has been holding on to this cage for quite some time. Maybe, I don't know if they see that Zarya, who's kind of just keeping him very isolated. If you want a target you could burn, I'd say it's that Zarya. I'd say it's go time. Puppy, of course, gets dropped here, looking to use the form. Here it comes. Here comes the explosive. Gets a one good direct shot onto Zumo here. And is looking for the kill onto the Freya. Sheepish goes deep, trying to find it. Suzu forced. On the opposite side, though, that Reaper by Pickle is getting forced by the Zarya Venture on the side of Desciples. 2 kills have been found. Sheepish is picking up one for his team here.
Right, the Lindholm making it a little awkward. Sorry. Making it a little awkward to aim at that Freya. The Freya able to just go up and kind of live for free.
Yeah, but
that's a lot more difficult.
You've been talking about how often Puppy and Cody have been using this pinch. They find yet another kill. They can use this pinch all day long, and it works for them every single time. However, what are you getting out of doing this? What progress is your team making? Because you're sitting still at 8 meters and 42 meters to a 97 meter lead here. You haven't
100%.
made progress.
And we have all 5 ults here. We really gotta start using these to try and get further in this map.
Yeah, and right now would be a great time to see the cage. However, you already see the damage being dealt. Here comes the pinch by Puppy. They really love using those triangular houses to be floating around. They find the kill onto Zumo, so that's the biggest threat to the Cat Bastion. Here comes I think an overcommit of ults. You already got the winning picks you needed. Why would you pop the Reaper and the Kitsune Rush? But they do get that checkpoint. This is actually the foot in the door they were looking for. However, maybe just a little too expensive.
Right, very expensive fight there, but it's not the worst thing in the world. They are still about an even point with Desciples here, ult-wise. The only notable exception being the Zarya being somewhat close to grab.
Yeah, you see Sheepish losing a lot of health right now. Needs some support, needs some carry. Here comes the Kitsune Rush on the opposite side by Desciple Gaming. Cage would be great anytime. It's good. It gets the Venture, so you can at least guarantee one to kill that Bastion Cat. Gonna put down the pressure, however, that Kitsune Rush is getting full effect. Pickle finds Cheers here. So now what seems like a doomed cause, Outlaws look like they're gonna hit this golden mark to take the lead and are quickly coming up to a 100-meter lead. So now this script has been totally flipped. It's up to Disciples to start putting things together.
100%. Using that Alarios as well makes it a little awkward here, but we see the Ventral come out, get slammed, and taken down.
Yeah, they find it. However, the Moira ult for the Coalescence is the only threat left for Puppy here. Gets totally beamed down, and you see a total regroup from the Outlaws, but you got what you're looking for. You turn this map around. You're now in the lead with 30 seconds to go. Disciples need like 3 good fights to really take this.
100%. We see the swap over to the Emre from Zomo off of the Freya. Possibly just looking for the override protocol, maybe.
That or a little more pressure onto the Bastion Cat. Like we've seen it 1,000 times, this Bastion Cat has been the #1 weapon. Moira, without his fate, is going to be the first target to get burnt down. Pickle found out. Talk about which the Kiriko comes alive, finds Spooky Tyler. Sheepish finds Poggers here. Puppy finding Zumo. It is just Cheese left. On Runasabi. Needs some help here. Sheepish, the grab is out. Looking to burn that down. This Zarya still is not dead. They need to kill it fast before the spawners come back with something faster. But it looks like that's it. Oracle Outlaws take a map off Disciple.
Very nice play from them. Nice adjustment onto the Cat Bastion. Not really having any answers. They got some decent car progress, but as soon as it started to come the other way, they couldn't get it going.
Yeah, no, I was harping on they kept using the same pin, not getting anywhere. But I'll give it to them. If your opponent just doesn't react to it, doesn't do anything about it, and if it's not broke, don't fix it.
100%. They were just lacking that initial car progress, but once they started moving it, there was really nothing that could be done from Disciples. Not with the concept they were playing. The Venture gonna have a very hard time. The Zarya also gonna have a very hard time. Sort of stuck in just trying to get the rest of the team out and force Sebastian Cat away that way.
So with that being said, though, we're going to throw it to a quick break. But before that, if you enjoy any of this commentary or community, or even want to be part of the action yourself in future seasons, please join the Discord with !Discord in chat. We'd love to see you here, and we will catch you in just a second.
All right, welcome back. It seems like we're going over to Circuit from Disciples with the Cat Ban. Definitely that Cat Bastion being a big problem for them in that last map. Follow up Sigma Ban from the side of Orbit. Maybe just not wanting to play that poke comp. Puppy being a very strong player so far. Getting that poke with that Ash could definitely be a problem if you have a Sigma supporting that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But on the side, we can't give Cheers we can give Cheers the same amount of credit. They come up in the kill feed just as much as Puppy does, and is just I think just kind of consistent. On the damage, on the tanks, you see constantly Sheepish going low on their health pool. So the pressure is real by both hit Scansa.
100%. And we see, like we were talking about, that Domina with the Ash really going to try and just play a lot of poke here with a Venture to maybe hold down a couple angles versus the Diva comp with the Widow from Zomo.
I hope they switch the Venture, because it'd be really difficult for the engage on the side of Disciple here. Like, I like your Venture, don't get me wrong. However, this map really isn't the ballpark you play Venture in,
Right, 100%. We see it on both sides, though, so the disadvantage is kind of split evenly. Although I do actually think it's a little bit better for defending, because you can just pre-set up into what
Yeah, you're absolutely right here. And, we don't have the Sigma, but we do have the Domina here. Of course, Pogger's going to be on that Hero Lottery. Pretty good pick for them. Have been electric on that. Zomo on to the Widowmaker. However, Sheepish finds a big source of healing for the Disciples right now. And, with that beam of that Domina, it's not like the Diva can stick around too long without having that damage. And we see the Venture v Venture here. However, Sheepish going in, trying to find that kill, is good for it. Right now, the Widow of Zomo haven't found too many picks. I scratched that caster curse. I lied. Immediately shoots Pickle in the head. Gets the pick they were looking for.
Gets close to taking off the head of Jamie as well. But so far, still managing to play. Nice pressure from them. We see the Diva going in here with the Venture.
Diva goes in, the Venture 1 HP. Sheepish needs some shield health, needs some health at all. You're running this Zen back Tease comp, you're really kind of greedy damage. Puppy coming alive. Sheepish looks comfortable on this Domina. The baby Diva out. If I was them, I'd have staggered just a little bit more, but Zumo still trying to find some heads here as the rest of Disciples is going to regroup here.
Right, nice solid fight there. Really able to recover. Puppy surprisingly living the engage from the Diva and the Venture. And now he's just walked over to Domina.
Ooh, Pickle almost dying there. 1 HP in a dream. We see a Domina mirror now coming out as Cheezer has switched off. However, Sheepish needs help. Like I've been saying, a lot of HP gets burnt away from this tank. Zomo has found the immortality kill, so Baptiste will be without his biggest util ever. Spooky gets the better of the Venture trade. Here comes a Bob from Puppy. Decides to check out the interior decorating of that room. However, the thin Octagon is good. However, with the assistance of their team, Disciples get out of there with not too many scratches here. We still have support ults on both sides of this target. Of course, Poggers in the orbital, the Window, and Transcendence on the side of Outlaws here. Zumu finding Dream here, and here comes the excavation. However, Pickle comes back from the grave with a vengeance. However, is it a little too late for the attention, a little too far, as Sheepish goes down?
Right, you got nobody on the cart right now. Everybody looking to try and get this stagger.
Yeah, that's crucial time you lose there, not pushing that cart. Because these spawns are so close for the defenders, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Puppy come back, and they come back on this Widow, but come back quickly, And that's exactly what you see, as Puppy's already setting up on angles. Sheepish, again, a lot of health loss, needs some support here. Puppy finds Poggers, they had the Sun here. Zumu finds Zane, so the supports with the ults do not have it. Puppy finds another one onto Tyler here. These Widows If you enjoyed old 2020 Overwatch on Circuit Royale, where it's just whose Widow is better, you're gonna enjoy this series. Zumo and Puppey coming alive as the two Dominas replace the Sigma in that competition.
Alright, and we see the swap over to the Genji from Smoky Tyler. Maybe just looking to get a little bit more of the pressure onto Puppey.
10 seconds.
Yeah, 7 seconds left. The touch has to come in for the Genji, but that is all the resources used. Here comes the orbital just to try to keep the Genji Juno alive. It's good. Zumo finds Pickle. Here comes the Sun, followed by the Transcendent. So any damage is going to be actually exploded through. I didn't know Sun did that much damage to explode through the Transcendence. The Panopticon good for that Zenyatta. It's all falling apart for the defense of Orbital. Of Outlaws, scratch that! There's a Panopticon on 4 here! This could go crazy! Find 2! It is just spooky! Sheepish needs help from anybody! Pickle back from spawn! Has Sheepish saved his team from defeat? Just gotta burn this Genji before anybody else comes! It's someone to shoot the Genji!
What a fight!
Complete.
What a very close fight. What a massive ult from Sheepish, able to find 4.
Sides. Initiating match.
Yeah, that's why I was like, please, I can't keep commentating.
I was so silent.
All right,
All
what an
right.
incredible defense. Sorry, I took your job away from you. Orbital coming up big there, preventing second point from being capped by Desciples, who are now setting up their defense.
100%. Really solid job there from Sheepish. Coming in huge with that Panopticon. And now it is on their job to break through this hold. Not too far of one to get through.
4, 3, 2,
And we
No,
see
you're
once again both teams having that Widow.
incoming.
Yeah, having the Widow, but an interesting pick. Sheepish going back to this Malga here. Yeah, spectator talking about bench warming. Love to see that. But Sheepish going over this Malga is susceptible to all this poke damage, so it's going to be really interesting. Tries to find the slam onto this Venture. We have 4-man in this little room. I don't think I've ever seen that, but the Venture, of course, gets burnt down because when everyone's looking at Venture, you'll catch that fire. Sorry, using all the bubbles here. Everyone looking on the Cheezers here. The Ilari turret putting in overtime work, and that overtime was rewarded as he finds Pickle here. You see Tyler going deep. However, the Zarya burnt. Tank burnt as well. It is a 3-on-3, but Doom coming alive, killing Puppey, putting their team back in it. While good part progress has been made, it looks like the Desciples will hold strong here for at least another defense.
Right, 100%, but you gotta be worried. That card pushed a decent hit. One good ult fight from the side of Orbit, and you are going to lose this match. You've got to start playing this a little more aggressively.
Yeah, talking about which you see the twins from the Malga over to the Ramatra. You have that shield now. I would love to see you go back to the Domina. However, if this is the comp you want to go, and we've seen them go for this Brawl comp, and they go immediately onto that Zarya. They're trying to push that tank out. And especially if the Hitman starts getting active in this fight for the Outlaws, that Zarya, as soon as you burn the bubbles down, super susceptible. And you see those orbs going into the Zarya by that Zenyatta. Finds the Venture, so the Venture has been picked twice first. However, here finds Jamie on Zen here. We're still counting the bubbles of it. However, Pickle going a little too deep on run here. Uses the revive. Is there a Mercy on the field? No, it's an on-run. Puppey gets the kill on the Cheers. For some reason, Pickle goes even deeper after getting that kill. It is a 4v3 right now. Orbital Outlaws, of course, rounding this corner. The golden box of victory is right here. You see Tyler pressing that advantage, trying to pressure out this support line here. A beautiful anti coming in from the Ana on the side of Desciples. That's going to slow him down. Here comes a nano onto the venture, and it is good. Finds Puppy with the escapation, finds the immortality. Tyler coming up huge with 2 picks onto that venture. And if I was Outlaws thinking about regrouping, there's a minute 30 left on the clock here. Fox is right there.
Right, you don't even need to win a fight at this point. You just have to get them to push back. This is enough.
Yeah, actually, big grab finds the ingredient. Here comes the EMP on top of the fact of the anti. They're going to pop all the ults. The Annihilation comes out trying to find Tyler. However, Juicy Pickle already going down. They're going to try to pressure out this Zarya. That's going to be a big pick. Sheepish needs the whole block. He needs to stay alive for the rest of the team. Now here comes the rest of the Desciples trying to hold on to it. Any kill, any more progress would be an Outlaws win. And you see the progress getting pressured out. That's a support lost on the side of Desciples. That's everyone else. And it looks like Outlaws are going to take us to another map.
Very clean play there. Really just deciding to punish that Zarya, burn her down quick, and then get that fight, get that push progress. Really solid job from Orbit.
Absolutely, really solid job from Orbit in general. Picking up 2 maps, and you got to give it to Sheepish here. Hitting 4 on this Panopticon, single-handedly the greatest play on this map. But if you want to talk about getting great plays, I was going to make a transition there, but I lost it, I'm going to be honest.
Happens to the best of us. But we are definitely going to see some great plays, I'm sure, in this next map. And we will be there just after this break. Back to the final map. We are 2-2 right now, going to Saravasa. We see the initial ban from Disciples going with the Bastion, once again, not wanting to deal with it. And we see the Zarya ban from Orbit, looking at Cheezers, saying, "You're not playing that today."
Yeah, absolutely. These two teams understand exactly what each other want to do at this point. I mean, we're at map 5. We've been at match point for 3 maps now, and now this is whoever can take this map is going to be the winner of this game.
Right, some really solid momentum here for Orbit. Definitely feels doable for them right now.
Yeah, but on the opposite side, Disciple also had a strong showing in those first 2 maps. Maybe the Cat Bastion, threw them off a little bit, but they're still hungry, and you see that in Zumo.
All right, and we see the comps coming out here. It looks like we got a Diva comp with a little bit of anti-dive versus the Maka comp they were running before with no speed. Definitely going to be an interesting matchup. That Diva going to be a bit of a problem for Tyler, who's just trying to sustain.
5, 4,
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually
2,
it's a
1.
great composition from Outlaws. Big question is, how is the Moira going to slot in on this? If you're looking to engage with Zumo, it's going to be a hard engage. That Cassidy is going to be +1 by that Lucio pretty much the entire time. Juicy Pickle and all Sheepish right now, they have that mobility. So we see the first two engage here. The Mauga going in deep, trying to find the Kiriko Slam, does not find it. We see the Defense Matrix eating, however, does not wait for the shout to do it. Here comes another slam in a small room. Spooky Tyler, which tank is going to get burnt down first? And it looks like Spooky Tyler is going to be one finding their way back to spawn, but followed hand in hand is Juicy Pickle. And it looks like Desciples is going to try to get this first point progress. And in Flashpoint, even small percentages or small time holding these points can lead to a big deal. Puppy finding another kill. Jamie getting traded on the side from the other Kiriko of Hoggers, and the Maug is already back. So this point progression that Disciples has already started getting can start stacking quite rapidly. Puppy finding DS, that's going to be that support. Disciples without a support. Sheepish burns down the Mauga here with the rest of the Helga team. And it looks like they are going to finally get this point flip. But make no mistake, 43% is a not insignificant spot on Flashpoint.
100%. That's a pretty good start, and we see a little bit of a lead in the Tracer already having that pulse bomb there.
Yeah, Puppy needed any support, but I don't know where their support was. Zumo finding Pickle, like you were saying. That Tracer duel right now in favor of Zumo. Maug is going to engage, trying to find that Kiriko, so no ultimates are going to be used to get back into this. Diva's out of the mech, and if I was Disciples, this is a beautiful stagger opportunity, and that's exactly what they get. This Diva's going to be the last to respawn here, and we're coming quickly up to Final Fight territory.
100%. With that respawn, you're going to have quite a bit of time that you're going to have to burn. Probably getting up to 70% before you even engage.
Absolutely. Right now, we're going to be looking at Puppy and Shears right now. That living weapon can come online in the middle of that. Pulse bomb getting stuck onto Tyler does not phase it as the fillet is good. Here comes the high noon by Puppy, needs the support, finds Diaz. So that cuts off the head of the support for Disciples here. Kitsune rush, they go, but they do not touch. That's tragic for Outlaws. You were in a good driver's seat there. They don't touch. Disciples get the first point here on Saravasa.
Right, 100%. Just not quite getting the touching time. Really needed to just run it. But we see a good ult bank on both sides. Tyler having that cage.
Yeah, Tyler has that cage, that living weapon online, and of course you have the Coalescence and the Kitsune rush. And on the opposite side, all you see is Bomb and B. So if you're Orbit Outlaws, you gotta play this smart. Here comes the Kitsune rush. They throw the bomb, trying to find anything, doubtful that it's gonna get anything. The remake is good. So Diva, without the extra life here, however, does force it. Here comes the living weapon, trying to find the damage. She is good on the Cody here, looking for another one. The defense matrix trying to get as much help. Zumo, however, finds Jamie here, and the damage has been dealt. everyone on the side of Outlaws. Low, Cheers, coming alive. Zumo, coming alive right besides them. And it's going to be second point. Going to go over to Disciple as they start making no progress in it.
Right, 100%. We're seeing still that ult advantage for Disciples with Cage and Cole only having to use Rush and Protocol there.
Yeah, absolutely. Puppy's going to have to come electric or at least zone with this high noon. Something has to be done because they are significantly dry on the outbank. Here comes the Cage, finding two, finding the Diva, finding the Kiriko. Poggers finding Puppy, but not before it takes out their Emery. Diva looks like they're going to get D-Mech, however, Zumo takes Juicy Pickle out on that. Poggers, of course, straight in their counterpart, and Spooky Tyler's just going to clean up the rest. Diva is D-Mech, and they quickly burn through it. Going to catch the last of that respawn wave a little later.
Right, and we see this time is still ticking up and up. That fight not happening, not able to flip the point. And we're already looking who's going to get the touch here. It's going to have to be Cody.
It's going to have to be Cody. Pickle's going to use his Wraith form. So right now, without too much mobility, here comes the high noon from Puppy. Trying to find anything. Beautiful zoning tool. Finds Diaz. Was not expecting that. However, we do have Malchus. A two-man pulse bomb onto the support line for Disciples. Zumo coming crazy with that. Cheers. Finding Sheepish. Pickle's going to be the last one on this point here. For Outlaws, probably not going to get done, but is holding strong. Tries to do a Reaper tech, does not get it. We are on match point, map point. Right now, totally in favor of Disciples.
100%. That was a very solid fight, especially from Zumo. That pulse bomb coming in huge, making it so they don't quite build that Kitsune, which might have been their only win condition for that fight.
Yeah, and you see right now, Orbital Outlaws desperate to find something. They switch up their composition. They are now on that Mauser Reaper, like we've been saying. Trying to find anything. Pickle in a dangerous situation. Hit by a Zumo who's been electric on this Tracer, and Poggers on the Flex support. Here comes the Kitsune Rush Shot. They're trying to find the Mauser. Point unlocked right now. The Disciples have planted their flag. Both the Kitsune Rush and Coalescence is out. However, Pickles finds Poggers. Zumo finding Pickles at the end. However, Puppy finds Cheers. The point does go over to Disciples, but for how much longer? Blur's eventually going to run out of healing resources. We see the case. They're trying to find any kills. Zumo finds Puppy. Diaz finds Cody. So I'm wrong here. Disciples weren't looking to buy time. They were looking to win that fight. They're at 25%.
Right, really solid points here. Tyler just not quite seeming to die no matter what happens. Always finding a way to just get back up to full HP and then re-engage.
Talking about Tyler, they have the Cage, they have the Orbital, and you know, I'm going to go over to Zumo because two-man pulse last time, they could do anything with this Tracer right now. Cheers, going down low, so the living weapon not going to happen. Poggers also going down. Looking good for Orbitals right now, but your health bars are getting quite low. However, Puppy does not care. Finds Zumo. So what I thought was going to be an ult fight does not look like you're going to pop too much.
Right, looks like they're just going to choose to go back, wait for the next, but that's a late take on the dive out, which is going to cause the stagger.
That causes the stagger right now. Outlaws getting some good percentages on the board. Building to that Kiriko, while everyone on fire, so Kiriko can build that rush, and that's going to be a head for Poggers. Pulse Bomb going wide, but Puppy accidentally steps back into it. So they're down, Outlaws down. Gets only one, the Lucio. Beat comes out, good for one. Gotta know that you're a mom. Beat's not gonna go through that shield as the rest of Outlaws burn one by one by one. You're at 65%. Disciples 72. We are looking at possibly the final fight.
Right, we really need something. We should be able to take this fight here if we use our ults, but we've got to be careful to use not too many of them because we only need one point on the side of...
Oh, it's Desperation Touch. Pickles goes down with... I'm confused by Pickles step forward. Puppy finds Diaz though. Suzu good to keep them alive. Puppy finding another pick. Here comes the Kitsune Rush. They needed that built immediately. 72%. However, it is just two players down on the side of the Disciples right now. Orbital Outlaws. Here comes the engage by the Malga. On the opposite side, Suzu's good for both sides. We have a Tracer, 1v1, Tracer and a Reaper on the side. But POV, Mauga shooting each other in the face. One Mauga eventually wins with Puppy coming alive with Poggers here. Zumo, cheers, finding some kills here. So this is not a done fight. Pulse Bomb going wide. Scared of that, throws the Suzu out. They need to burn this DPS duo of Zumo and Cheezers. Cheezers finds James. It's looking desperate. Outlaws choking what seems to be a winnable fight here. However, Sheepish finally gets it. Cody back from spawn. Here comes the Mauga once more. It is slipping through their hands. Disciples are gonna get this point flip. Juicy Pickles gonna pop that Reaper ult. Does not get it. The focus fire is good. Puppy's gonna step up. Try to plant their flag one more time, but that's all she wrote. Disciples, stop the reverse sweep. Stop the bleeding and take this series.
And what a way to stop it with a quick 3-0. Very dominant performance on that Saravasa. Really just saying, all right, we've had enough of your games. We've had enough of what's going on. We're just going to go back to Mauga. And we're going to win with that Mauga. So very solid job on their end.
Yeah, absolutely. Very solid job on their end. And, you know, the pieces who were looking to come alive, their DPS duo, they came alive this match. When it mattered, they came alive. And I believe that's truly what they won on.
100%. Now, looking at these rosters, if you were to try and pick MVP for this match, I'm finding it a little difficult to look at anybody but Poggers, honestly. Super consistent play, getting a lot of good picks with that Alari, getting a lot of good value with Suzu on that Kiri.
Yeah, I agree. Poggers stand out in the field of support. But on the opposite side, we got to give it to Puppy as an honorable mention. Headshot after headshot is all we can describe by their hit scan play.
100%. And not even to mention Runasapi. They completely ran the lobby along with Cody, and they just could not find an answer for it. So very good job from, quite frankly, all these players putting in the work, definitely giving it their all. And thank you all for watching. It's been a fun stream, and we will catch you next time.
Absolutely. Have a great one.